Good morning. Welcome to the Pitchline Chronicles. I don't know why the intro won't click on, but hey, fuck it. It's just one of those days. But hi, Uncle Tats. I'm here with Rob and Donald, and we're just really having a good time this morning, aren't we? It's amazing how for every game that we were just having this joke, for every game the Yankees win, two guys go on the IL. Right. And we get Donald back, which is great. We missed him. But
back from the IL. Yes.
Back from the IL. But now the Weisiger's back on the IL. And just when you think this bullpen needs a little bit of a reprieve with some fresh arms, another guy goes down. It's amazing the issues with the health on this team. It's nothing I've ever seen before in my life. And it's not like when we had the next man up season in 19. This is the Yankees outdid themselves this year. They really did. Donald, your thoughts?
Hey, we took 2 out of Boston. I'll take that. I'll take that any day, no matter who goes down. But the first thing the Yankees need to do in the offseason is look at their training staff and what they're doing with these pitchers, because they are obviously doing something wrong, because these guys should not all be going down at the same kind of time. There's obviously something not right. There's obviously something that they ain't doing right. I don't care what Brian Cashman has to say. I don't care what excuses they make up. It's not all just down to bad luck. I mean, that has to be the worst luck ever in the history of luck in order for everyone to go down this year. So they got to look at something. I don't quite know what it is, but I think it says it all with all these injuries. They left themselves open. They didn't have a good offseason. They had a worst offseason you could imagine, actually. They left themselves very open and susceptible to these injuries, but still, it's crazy how many have gone down at this point. First thing I do is I sack that training staff. Every single member of that training staff needs to be gone ASAP. And then they need to start from scratch and really figure it out. It's not just the training staff, but figure out exactly how they're managing these guys. If they've got an ailment, how are they managing them? With all the modern technology in soccer, they can tell you exactly at what point their muscles are starting to tire through analytics, and they do that with football. They do it with basketball. But for some reason, the Yankees can't seem to figure out when someone's getting tired and maybe they need to rest or whatever, or maybe they're just not handling these injuries well enough because they always seem to mismanage them. So the first thing I do is I'd have a look at how these guys are being managed, have a look at the analytics aspect, because it's not just the analytics aspect in terms of personnel, which they've gotten wrong, and in-game management, which they've gotten wrong, but also the analytics can tell you these guys' health, and they've gotten that wrong as well. So I'd fire the analytics staff and the medical staff and most of the front office. In fact, Brian Cashman involved as well. He should have been gone years ago. So I'd sack the whole frickin' thing and start again.
Rob, what do you see besides what we've been saying? That Dr. Ahmad, it really is the problem, because everything else has changed except for him. But what's the issue with these fucking IL stints? What are you? If there's one thing you could change, what would it really be?
Dig up whatever voodoo doll is underneath the fucking stadium, because I don't know what else I don't know what it is. I think someone just mentioned it earlier that Mazda did. It's the most guys that have been on the IL in the team's history, and even the backups are going down. Earlier in the year when we had to use Greg Allen and Bowers and Calhoun, they all went on the IL. Ryan Weber was picked up and let go and picked up and let go. He went to the IL. Ian Hamilton's been on the IL twice with the same injury. So you think about everyone that's going down, even the bad players like Abreu, he just got hurt. And that's their way of getting him off the roster. Everyone's getting hurt this year. And I don't know. I think there's only a handful of players that have been able to go through the entire year healthy. And I think it's Gleyber Torres, IKF, and a couple other players that I can't really think off the top of my head. But Like before the season, we were missing Rodon in basically the entire rotation. And then we lost Stanton, we lost Judge and Bader. The list goes on and on. Cole made it through the entire season, but it's ridiculous. Like every day, there's another player going on the IL. Like the other day, they were saying, "Oh, Peraza's dealing with something, but now he's okay." That was Dominguez. We finally get him for a handful of games. He goes on the IL, and now Loaiza's done. It's like, what else? There's 19, 18 games left, and we still have to deal with this for another couple of weeks. Like, who else is going to go on the IL? At this point, I'd be terrified to send people out there just in case something goes wrong. I would shut down a couple of people because there's nothing to play for at this point besides 500. Shut down Judge, shut down Stanton, shut down Cole if you have to. Rodon, I think that would be a good time to shut him down. He had a good start after a rough first inning. Shut him down because God forbid something goes wrong where he's out for the first month or so next year again. We don't want to deal with that. It's Clark Schmidt as well, but it's been weird. Every day there's someone else getting hurt, or even if they're not going on the IL, they're dealing with a nagging injury, and something has to be done. Like they have to just clean house with that entire staff, analytics, and of course the medical staff. Start from scratch with everything. If you want to use analytics, use it for like Donald mentioned it. They do this stuff. Even, and I know people don't want to hear his name, but Trevor Bauer has like this app that he uses to measure how his arm feels after every start. Why are the Yankees not doing that? Like, there's just so many instances where it's like these things could have been avoided, like the Anthony Rizzo stuff. That could have been avoided. Clint Frazier a couple of years ago, you could have avoided that. Brandon Drury had vision problems and they still played him. Like there's so much history that they don't learn from. And this is something that we've been talking about. Like they need to change things up if they want things to change. And it has to start with that medical staff because this would be the second time they've done it in the last 5 years. And it's worse now. They overhauled it a few years ago and it's worse. I don't get it. Are we cursed? Is it just bad luck? Every player that Cashman has acquired except for IKF since last year has been on the IL. Every single one of them.
I just want to pick up on Jones' comment here. What they did to Dominguez and Rizzo is criminal, in my opinion. They complained of pain and told to play through it. So important. I'll put a star beside that because, first of all, the Rizzo thing is a complete disgrace. That's put his career and his livelihood and his life in jeopardy with a guy that's complaining of double vision and headaches, and the Yankees are like, well, you're playing the next day. I mean, that is insane. The guy was playing for months, and he couldn't see straight, and he was feeling terrible, like a permanent hangover. And the Yankees are like, sounds perfectly normal to me. You get out there. It's absolutely insane. In fact, everyone should have been fired on the spot for that alone because, I mean, Rizzo could actually sue them. Technically, he could have sued them for that because it is complete negligence and malfeasance from a professional organization. Professional. So I'm still pissed at them for what they did to Rizzo. I will not forgive them for that. Brian Cashman should have been fired on the spot for that. I don't care what anyone says. He should have been fired for that. Dominguez, yeah, he complained of an elbow thing, and the Yankees kind of told him to play through it for a day. I don't know. It's not nearly as bad as the Rizzo thing, but it's just part and parcel of the way the Yankees manage their people or manage their players. They just mismanage them. And pick up on one of the other earlier comments that it looks like they're going to have Sabian and Mania have a bigger role with the Yankees next year. It couldn't come at a better time because they're our saviors, not Cashman. Those two guys. If you want saviors to the organization in the front office, is those two dudes. But what a mess! What a freaking mess! But anyway, at least we won 2 games yesterday.
We're gonna get to the wins. I just want to with this whole medical thing. I just wanted to get this, the IL thing out of the way early in the show. But the other part of it, another name that we don't like mentioning is Domingo Germán. The guy was clearly drunk off his ass, dealing with it, and from all reports, he's back home, he's clean, he's happy, his kids are glad that he's home, good for him. Their idea to get him right was to put him in a steam bag to sweat it out, which could really make things worse. But then you had him throwing you had him go throwing a baseball knowing that he was fucked up. God forbid that he would have really hit somebody with a fastball and done some damage to somebody, to an opposing player's career. Whether he hit it, got hit in the, whether a player got hit in the wrist and broke a bone, or hit in the head because he can't, his vision wasn't right. This medical staff has been so negligent this year. It's not even funny. It's really not.
Such a good point, man, because you can't sweat out alcohol. You sweat out a flu. You can sweat out the cold, but alcohol, you need to actually have water, eat food, fill your stomach and absorb the alcohol. You don't just sit in a steam room and think you're going to be fine right after. That's insane. I don't know what's going on.
Yep. So, Donald, being you are back from the IL, one of the things that we've tried to do, we just don't do it as well as you. It's roll call time, buddy.
It's roll call time. Yeah, well, we got lots of people in the chat, so I do want to say a big, big thank you to everyone who's tuning in. Right, bright and early, we got Maza. What up, Maza? Got Steve Schumann. What up, Steve? NFE, of course, NFE. Good to see you. Medina, how it do? What else? We got Dev Finch, Anthony Garcia, Alfonso Patterson. Good to see you, Alfonso. We have FJ, of course, FJ, loyal viewer. Fats 1927, salute. We have Jonesiko. Thank you so much. We got a big star beside your awesome comment. We've got lots of Maza, lots of Dev and NFE. Lots of comments from you guys. We've got Davey Hermandi. Good to see you. If we get that Japanese pitcher in free agency, and that is the only move we make, I consider a free agency a victory. Think about we will have to get via trade. And Maza, Donald, great to see you. Great to have you back. Maza, much appreciated, my guy. Much appreciated. Back to Davey's comment. I would love Yamamoto. That would be phenomenal if we can get him. It looks like the Yankees are right on him. The fact that Brian Cashman was there and other front office execs were right beside him kind of tells you where we are with that. It looks like the Yankees are on. And one thing about Brian Cashman is if he wants someone bad, 9 times out of 10 he gets them in free agency. It tends to be that way. So it's probably a good sign to all Yankee fans that Cashman was there to watch that no-hitter and he was standing up giving him a standing ovation. So I think Cashman's like, yes, my get out of jail free card. Yeah. So I think Cashman is already planning on signing him. I hope that happens because the Yankees desperately need him. But they also desperately need about a third of a batting order, which needs to be brought in for next year as well, but we will obviously get into that at the right time. But everyone in the chat, thank you so much. And if you haven't already done so, hit that like button and subscribe button. Oh, we got Sunil. Good to see my guy Sunil. Donald, do you think Cashman and an Epler have a hand in the New York Giants and New York Jets roster construction? The thing is, the Jets roster is actually pretty good because they actually managed to beat the Buffalo Bills, which ain't easy, without a quarterback. So that's not easy to do. So they've got a decent roster, but they don't have a quarterback. So that's probably going to be a problem. The Giants, the thing about the Giants is they've never had an offensive line. They've never had a pass rush since Justin Tuck and Michael Strahan have retired. And the Yankees the Giants have never seemed to be able to put together an offensive line since the Eli Manning Super Bowl years. So since then, it's not a surprise. So I don't even know who to blame anymore. It's just the way the Giants are. They can't protect the quarterback and they can't hit the quarterback. So that's for another podcast, the Giants and Jets podcasts. But Sunil, to answer your question, Cashman has done so much to damage the Yankees. I don't know how much more he could possibly do to damage the Giants and the Jets.
Yeah, running this team has been a full-time job for him. All right, let's get to yesterday's baseball. Right? I want to start off with last night's game because I think that was actually really – I actually since the kids got called up, I think that last night was the first night that I actually enjoyed the game. Rodon had a tough first inning. He labored, but he did only give up the one run on the first pitch and was able to navigate through the inning. And then really was just like, he was the pitcher that we were hoping, that we wanted to have. The inning that really stood out yesterday was the sixth. The top and bottom of the inning. The at bats that they were grinding out, more specifically Wells's at bat. When he was able to hit it to the monster. This kid, I'm looking. You look at his batting average and some of the other numbers, and you would think he was struggling. But there's one thing that stood out. Was going on, TC. There's one thing that stood out. He's not flustered to an at bat. He sees the ball really well. He fouled off. They were all fouling off a shit ton of pitches. It's really, I think Wells. The numbers might not be there, but it's one of those. He's just a few at bats away from starting to really put everything together, where he starts getting some results from these long at bats.
Keep in mind, he's only been up for like 2 weeks, so it's not like we have this month-long sample size. Even this month of September is not going to tell you the whole story with him. But I mean, if he hits like 190 or something, you're not going to be like, this guy can't do it. That's just that's unfair to one player, because look at how bad Volpe was to start the season. Look at how bad Pereira's kind of been average-wise, numbers-wise. If you look at the stats, you'd be like, he sucks. But we know that's not the whole story. And that's what the Yankees try to tell us a lot. And when they think a guy's going to come out of a slump or he's getting going, it's like, how are his at-bats looking? How hard's he hitting the ball? Is he missing pitches? Like, what's he struggling with? And with these kids, and you knew it wasn't going to be an overnight sensation. Like, not everyone was going to hit like Dominguez when he first got here. We've never really seen that, where the guy just immediately hits and doesn't stop hitting. So even when Sanchez got called up, it wasn't like he was hitting he was hitting a home run every single day, because Dominguez just broke records with his home runs in his first 8 games. So it's going to take time, but it's definitely is something that you look at the way they're grinding out the at-bats, like you said, and it's just patience with them, because if this kid's going to be the future behind the plate, we need patience and we need an offensive bat. We knew his bat was major league ready. If the defense can catch up, which so far he's looked just fine, I mean, we're in good shape with him. So it's nice to see a couple of these kids get a chance and get some at-bats, put some big hits together. And someone brought up Florial early when he tied the game. That was important, because I can't wait to see him get more at-bats. And hopefully he can take off and give the Yankees a reason to keep him next year. And just even if it's as insurance in case we have to go a couple of months without Dominguez. So keep letting the kids get at-bats, play them every single day. And you got 17 games left. I don't know what the number is, but just let him play every day, every single day.
Question for the panel here. Maza says, I honestly believe Austin Wells is our catcher of the future. He calls a great game, has a nice eye at the plate. Does everyone in the chat and my panel agree with that? I'll put my 2 cents in. I completely agree with that. And in fact, I would have said that Wells should have been up much earlier. I think he should have been up at some point in June, July. I honestly think that Wells, his bat kind of plateaued this year. It was brilliant last year. I don't understand why the Yankees didn't really give him a serious look for the start of this year. I would have even made that argument. But as soon as Trevino went down, that's when they should have called Wells up, because Wells' offensive numbers were okay this year. Great last year. Sometimes you just spend too long in the minors. And I think that was the case with Wells. I think Wells, he has good poise and he's got a nice bat. They should have given him a much earlier chance. So I agree. I think they should give him the job with Higashioka coming out of spring next year.
No, I think that's why I said it. Yeah, that's why I specifically brought up Wells. I think he's going to be just fine. I actually, as much as we were clamoring all year to bring these kids up, get the youth going, I actually think that that's the only thing that they actually got right this year was letting these guys kind of get that little extra time down in the minor leagues. Don't rush them up. I think they brought these kids up just at the right time. Wells, I know the big question was his defense, or his work behind the plate. I haven't seen anything that's like, I don't know if he's ready. He calls, you've seen every pitcher, specifically Rodon. Look at the difference in their outings with Wells behind the plate right at this part of the season. They're killing it. The pitchers just seem that they have that confidence in their catcher. If they don't have confidence in the catcher, they're not going to have, they can have a good feel for their stuff, but are they going to trust it? You know what I mean? That was the big reason why a lot of pitchers were having issues with Sanchez. They felt like with him behind the plate, they couldn't use their breaking stuff because they were afraid of it getting through his legs. So when you see that they're comfortable pitching to Wells, you're seeing that I think you're going to see a drastic difference in the numbers throughout a full season when you have that chemistry.
I completely agree. It looks like everyone in the chat agrees too. Rob?
Yeah, he should be. I know Damien just brought up Gustin Ramirez, who's in Double-A right now. He's someone that can certainly put his name into the conversation, but like Ford Train says, he needs a little bit more time. But he's got a big bat. He's got a big bat just like Wells did. But I mean, if that's your combination of the future, Wells and Ramirez, that's a pretty good combination. Ramirez also needs to work on the defense a little bit, but there's also Ben Rice that's been hitting the ball like an absolute madman. He could potentially be a first baseman moving forward. Again, we have a lot of offensive first catchers in our system. We have a couple of defensive guys out there, but most of our catchers are offensive first. But like I said the other day, we just need him to be good. You just need him to be able to handle the position. We don't need every single catcher to be Jose Trevino. We don't need everyone to be a platinum glove winner. No one needs to be the greatest defensive catcher of all time, because look at a lot of teams, they have an offensive-minded catcher. As long as they just call a good game and they don't let 7 balls get by them a game like Sanchez did that one year, then you're going to be fine. And that's all we need from these guys. We don't need them to all be platinum glove winners. And that's a good thing. If he can hit the ball, especially Wells, his swing is so perfect for our lineup because lefty, Yankee Stadium, he's going to hit 20 home runs given a full season, 20 plus. So you need offense. Clearly you need offense. We went the defensive approach the last 2 years and it didn't really work. Higgy's had his moments here and there, but you need offense. And as long as Austin Wells is just good enough at the position, we're going to be fine. And you have plenty of guys that can be the backup, unless you want to keep Higgy for another couple of years, or you go with Rortvet, or you go with Trevino. We still got him for a few years as well. You have a lot of options who could be that backup, so you can go offensive and defensive minded as a platoon, because we know most teams are going to have a catching platoon. You don't really play the same guy every single day. So it's a good thing to have, and I think Austin Wells, if he can learn from a guy like Trevino in the spring, that's great. Only thing that hurt Wells this year development-wise is he was injured at the start of the season, so he missed a lot of spring, and he had to start in Class A, and then he worked his way up. Had he been healthy, I think we would have saw him a lot sooner.
We need a lefty bat, and Wells gives us that lefty bat. I agree with that Mazza right there. That lefty bat for a catcher is important.
Yeah, the other question is how not that you can't really you can't do your job as a manager or a GM really taking everybody's feelings into account, but we can a little bit. What do you think the mindset would be from Trevino? If he had to come into a backup role when he comes back, because we now have Wells up here. Do you think that's something that looms in the front office's head?
He was basically a platoon guy anyway. He only took over last year because he was just far superior to Higashioka. This year, Trevino was hurt. Another guy that got hurt, playing through an injury, and Higgy was actually at least had spurts of good offense, and his defense wasn't as good as it's been in the past, but it wasn't terrible, I guess. So Higgy, it forced him to put him in the game more, because look, I think yesterday, didn't he have 3 hits in one of the games? So Higgy has his moments where he does show up at the bat, but then he kind of has like a week and a half where he looks like he shouldn't be in the major leagues. That's the reason. But even last year when they got Trevino, he wasn't really supposed to be the catcher because Higgy started opening day, I believe. And Higgy was Cole's guy. And that changed to Trevino because they realized Trevino was better than basically the entire major leagues when it comes to framing. He's like the guy. That's why he won the Platinum Glove last year. So when they went to this year, Trevino was the guy, but then they saw that he wasn't really playing too well. Even his defense took a backseat a little bit because of the injury, and you saw more of Higgy.
Yeah, I think Higashioka's far outplayed any other catcher so far this year for the Yankees. He's probably earned the backup role next year. Probably. He got the perfect game, and his bat has been actually surprisingly okay. Considering how bad the rest of the Yankee offense has been, he's actually been one of the slightly better bats. Not a huge statement to make, but I think he's probably earned the backup job. But I like Trevino. I think he's an excellent defensive catcher. But with that bat, his bat is too weak. I don't think we can afford to carry it.
Yeah, I think the Platinum Glove is something to keep in the back of your head. But yeah, the one that year he had a career year. I don't think anybody was able to really poke too many holes in his game. But I think, and I've been down on Higgy. I really don't know what to do with him. But I think the Yankees' point of view, they're going to look at his longevity in the organization and give him the edge. I think that's going to be the factor. So I think it would be one of those. They move on from Trevino, try to move him. Put him as a piece for some relief help. But or just some low level prospects that we could probably get it back into the organization. But I think that Higgy's going to be the guy from the organization's point of view. I don't favor one or the other, but I think you can't ignore Trevino's career year when he came here.
It's true.
Through all that.
The All-Star team.
Yep. Yeah, we were the Jose chance. He really did give us a good year, especially. I mean, anybody was going to look good when it's not Sanchez, because everybody was pretty much done. Except for Rob, everybody was pretty much done with Sanchez at that point.
And in fairness, Sanchez looks pretty damn good this year for the Padres,
right? You talk about it. You talk about redemption. And good for him. I don't think anybody. I know the three of us when we talked about it. If they needed to move on from him, we were okay with it. If he found success somewhere else, good for him. But his run here had to end.
When did the Yankees become the dark hole, the black hole for careers? Like, when did this happen? It used to be the other way around. It used to be the Yankees could turn careers around. But lately, these guys are coming here and they're dying quick.
Cashman.
Yeah, Cashman.
Believe me. I mean, Dr. Ahmad's got to get some of the blame because I think I would trust Doogie Howser, MD, over Dr. Ahmad, MD.
Yeah, but even with Sanchez went on the IL the other day, so he's done for the year. But look at some people come here and they revive their careers. It's not like everybody comes here and just completely fails. I mean, Joey Gallo came here and failed, but the Yankees wasn't the Yankees' fault. Didn't work out. Look at Carlos Rodon. People think he's a failure, but it's still way too early to say that's the case. Matt Carpenter came here and he was the savior of the season. No one saw that coming last year. So it's not like everybody comes here and just becomes a fail, but there have been too many instances where a player has come here, like Sonny Gray fell flat on his face. We can't forget about that. Frankie Montas barely saw the mound. I think he's been throwing some simulated games lately, but I doubt we see him again. It's kind of like either they're good or they just tank completely when they come here. And there's really no in between. If you get an in between of that, where either they're just solid, you call a lot of trades wins, but we've got a lot of like bad players and they've been really good. Most of them pitchers. Like we get like a trash heap relief pitcher like Clay Holmes, and he turns out to be pretty good for us. I won't say really good because he's like a seesaw. You don't know what you're going to get with him. But Wandy Peralta, who the hell was Wandy Peralta? He came in, he was one of our best relief pitchers. So it's weird, but the players that we get, like the big names that we get that should be really good, turn out to not be so good. Like, again, Sonny Gray sticks out like a sore thumb with that because he should have been good, but they didn't use him right. James Paxton had one good year. Paxton, they used him wrong. And that's one thing that really bugs me is when they brought in Aaron Boone, the one guy they kept was Larry Rothschild. Why was he still around? Because that was Rothschild that's like, oh, hey, throw this cutter. And Paxton didn't want to throw the pitch. Like, it wasn't a good pitch. And when they finally let him throw, it worked out. Look at Montgomery. He was good with us, but then he leaves and they're like, hey, throw your fastball more. And he became elite. Like he's been elite for Texas. He's been really freaking good. And it's just one simple change. So I don't know like what it is. What like even Josh Donaldson yesterday had a home run and he's got a couple of hits in his first few games with Milwaukee. Aaron Hicks, when he left, started hitting.
It's starting to all come together with what I said, man. It's a dark hole.
It's weird though.
Dark hole.
But at the same time, those are two players that we needed to get rid of. Like we did not want Aaron Hicks here. We did not want Josh Donaldson here. Yeah. So if Donaldson hits like 250 or something for the next 2 weeks, are we really going to care that he's not with us? Because we're not going anywhere. Milwaukee's chasing a playoff spot. So, but I hate seeing guys that should have worked out here and they go elsewhere and immediately start playing well. Like for like a week, Joey Gallo was doing that for the Dodgers, and you're like, you couldn't have done that for us. And I don't know. It's weird, but I think of Sonny Gray immediately when I think of players that should have been good here, but turned out to be complete and utter failures. And it's mainly because of what the organization tries to tell them to do. They get guys and tell them, change your approach. Why? You're a good pitcher elsewhere. Do that here. And if we need to make adjustments, we'll make adjustments. That's my issue with this whole thing is players come over and they try to change them up immediately. Why get them if all you want to do is just change them?
Before we move on to the next topic, I would say that in any other line of business, any other organization, any other sport, and any other organization in other sport, if a bunch of players, a whole list of players, which we've just gone through right now, are better when they leave and struggle when they're here, there's a sign that there's something broken in the front office and management and their management of personnel. That is the sign. That is the sign. If most moves don't work out because they aren't playing as they should be playing, but they go elsewhere and they're starting to play to the back of their cards, that is a huge indicator, 100% neon light sign saying something is wrong with this organization. That's it. There should not be another year of Brian Cashman because that's it right there. What we just went through right there is why Brian Cashman has got to go. Anyway, let's get to something positive. Florial. Espen Florial, the forgotten man. It's nice to see him. I didn't think he existed after the way the Yankees had treated him. But he came up with an RBI and looked solid. Imagine what Brian Cashman's thinking right now, because all his excuses ran out and Florial actually looked pretty damn good yesterday.
You know what Cashman's saying? He got lucky. He doesn't have it in him to give credit to his own players. Come on now.
Remember when Aaron Boone gave the backhanded compliment to Florial going, I wouldn't be surprised if Florial does well, but he's just got to work on his swing and miss stuff. Can I just say that the entire roster has swing and miss written all over them? That's what the Yankees are. They strike out a million times. What difference is Florial going to make? That's such a stupid excuse when so many of their guys strike out over 30% of the time that they're at bat. The Yankees don't care about that. They never have cared about that. Why is it all of a sudden that Florial is a problem because of that? That is just a stupid excuse because they didn't want to use him. They didn't like him. For whatever reason, they didn't like him. That's it.
Yep. Well, think about it. When they called him up before the first game got rained out, Boone's like, yeah, he's going to get a chance here to play and show what he can do. There's 3 weeks left. You should have called him up 2 months ago, and you would have this is still not a good sample size. Because even if he plays, let's say he plays 10 of the next remaining games, that's still not enough of a sample size. Keep in mind, Franchy Cordero has more at-bats this year than Florial has in his entire career. So the Yankees have not given him an actual opportunity, and now they're finally doing it because they lost Dominguez when he should have been up here far sooner. You could have really had yourself a hidden gem that fell back into your lap after you gave up on him. And I'm not saying that would have happened, but you never know. You never know. And that was what I've been saying for months. You never know what you're going to have unless you give it a shot. And so they kept going to Cordero and McKinney, and they kept playing Bowers, and they kept just giving at-bats to anybody they could pick up off the sidewalk, except of the guy that could actually play the outfield. Florial has power. He has speed. He's a good glove. Those are things you needed for months, and they're waiting until yet another injury to finally give him that shot, and that's what really bothers me. And the whole swing and miss stuff, you know who also struck out a lot in AAA? Pereira, and they called him up. So this whole swing and miss shit should not matter. Volpe strikes out a ton. Judge strikes out a ton. Stanton, Rizzo has been striking out a lot this year. DJ strike out a lot this year. The only guy who really isn't is Glaber. Glaber's like the only one who hasn't been striking out a lot this year. But this is a swing and miss team, and the whole reason you didn't want to call up a guy that can provide you power, a 30 home run bat in AAA, is because he swings and misses. Isn't that what the whole game is about now? The 3 true outcomes, the home run, the walk, or the strikeout, like that's it. And Florial has a high, even with the strikeouts, his average, it wasn't like he was a 230 hitter. He was hitting like 280 plus. His on base was through the roof. His slugging was through the roof. His OPS was near 1 dot. So because he strikes out a lot, you feel like he can't do it at the major league level. Well, then you shouldn't have called up Pereira because he strikes out a ton. And he's gotten off to a slow start. Maybe they should give up on him too, right? DFA Pereira, right? Because that's how it works. Like, I'm not saying Florial's the savior. I never once said he'd be the savior. But the fact that they never gave him a shot with all these injuries, the starters and the backups, 6 different outfielders of our depth chart were on the IL this year. Bader, Judge, Stanton, Bowers, Calhoun, and Allen, all on the IL. And they never once gave Florial a shot. That is a really, really bad look. It's not like he's 30 plus years old. He's 25. You have a chance to revive your career. The same team that let you go, you get him back. Hey, the whole league missed out on this kid. That's like a suck it moment for Brian Cashman if there ever was one. Hey, you could have had him for nothing. And then even if he hits like I just said, he just has to be solid. He doesn't have to be Aaron Judge 2.0. He doesn't have to be Stanton with the power bat. Just be solid. Play a good defense. Hit 250 or whatever. Get on base a good amount. Have an OPS near or above 800. You know, something like that. And we're not asking the world from you, but they never gave him a shot until the final 2 weeks. Like, this is why so many people are just fed up with the front office, because these are moves that every other team would have made months ago when you lost Aaron Judge and said they gave it to Billy McKinney. And it wasn't until he got put on the IL that they finally stopped using him.
Right. I want to pick up on Spencer's comment here. I think, as you guys know, I don't have the same confidence in Florial that you do, but last night he did a little to prove me wrong. The thing that we're seeing is just look at who we've used instead of Florial. McKinney, Bowers, Franchy Cordero, who literally couldn't catch a ball in the outfield, right? These are the guys. It's not like we've been choosing like legit all-stars ahead of Florial. So our argument is, what would you have to lose to give someone who's in your system already, who's 25 years old, who hits for power? He's got 28 home runs in AAA and a 900 900 OPS. You've got that in your minors, and he plays a very good outfield, either in left field or center field. He's got a nice glove, and he's got speed, as Rob says. What is the downside of giving someone who's 25 in your system already, who's got upside, over someone who's a retread like Franchi Cordero, who no one wanted. Even the Orioles cut him, and look how good the Orioles are right now. The Red Sox cut him, and the Red Sox sucked this year, and the Red Sox cut him. These teams are cutting them because he isn't good, but the Yankees gave him a ton of reps. So what I'm saying is, what was the downside of giving Florial that opportunity? There was zero downside. I am not saying that Florial that we've missed out on an all-star. What I'm saying is, what is the downside? I want to hear Spencer's reply to that, because I don't think there is a downside.
Yeah, and like Jordan says, he could be a placeholder for Dominguez until he's back, and then they can reevaluate, reassess the whole situation. Because we are going to need somebody for center field. IKF? Come on now.
Even like if he's a fourth outfielder, we haven't had that. Like, that was supposed to be Aaron Hicks this year. And what happened to him? He got DFA'd. So even if he becomes the fourth outfield, like, we know how often these guys get hurt. And I'm sorry for cutting you off there, but we know how often these guys get hurt. If you have someone like Florial that can just be a good enough hitter to turn to, instead of saying, well, we're going to put IKF in the outfield. Let's use Cabrera as an outfield. Let's use Gleyber Torres in the outfield, because we know that came up last week, that conversation. So instead of getting infielders to move to the outfield, why not have an actual outfielder at your disposal in case of emergency? It makes all the sense in the world. He can start the first month or two, wherever Dominguez needs to get ready. And then when Dominguez is back, Florial can still potentially play, because I don't know if Pereira is here next year. I really think they're going to try to move him because they're waiting for Spencer Jones to be ready. I think Pereira is just getting kind of like a trial run to see if other teams are going to want to take him in a trade for a bigger piece. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's what I see happening. I don't think they have as much confidence in Pereira as they do in a guy like Spencer Jones, because Spencer Jones is going to fit this team like a glove, where Pereira could easily be the starter, but you can easily see him as part of a trade for another big bat or something, or another pitcher perhaps.
Yeah, and I don't think when
you've been quiet. What do you think about all what we've been saying about?
No, I think Florial was somebody, when we first started doing got this podcast together, I was very high on Florial since we've met. It took too long to give him a shot. So I think he's now fallen out of the pecking order, where, he's probably just going to be a fill-in guy for Dominguez, and then he'll be a fourth outfielder. And I think if you're able to do that, and if you have him right, you also have, I think he's a free agent after this season, but, like an IKF type, where he just fills in for a couple of days to get people off their feet. I don't want to see another, the whole Torres thing. That was such a fucking joke. I don't know what machine put that theory out. But no, I think that Florial can, he has to make the most of this opportunity, because this is going to be his last one. They already DFA'd him once, and nobody picked him up. This is not only, this is not a chance for you to revive your career, but it's also a chance to tell your boss, with the middle finger, look what you missed on. Kind of, throw that middle finger around. So I want to see Florial get a lot more playtime. I think yesterday we saw a little bit of what he can do, and he's, as the games went on, like the first game he went over fine. It actually, the pitching and defense on both teams, had some good game, some good innings. So the offense, they were all tearing up the ball, and he was the only one without a hit. But you saw in the second game, he started to get a little more comfort in his at-bats, and the results were there. So the bat's going to be fine. The defense, we all know, is fine. So Florial's just one of those guys. He has to be a part of the puzzle going into next year until Dominguez is back, and then you see where you're at.
I don't think he will be. I think he's actually right now. I think he's playing for other teams to look at him for next year. I don't think he's going to be here next year. I think this is an audition through September for another organization to give him a chance next year. I don't think it's going to be with the Yankees.
Which is not the end of the world for him either.
No, it's not. It's just I think that's what it's going to be. I don't think Brian Cashman is going to give him that opportunity again next year. To pick up on Spencer again, in general, the few times Florida played on the team, he did okay. I recall him striking a lot, right, bemoan him in key situations. I want him to succeed. I want to prove you guys right, prove me wrong. Well, it's not really a case of proving us right or wrong. I think really what my point is, I'm not saying that we've missed out on an all-star or we've missed out on some phenomenal player. We don't know. We've not seen enough of them. But with the other guys that have given a ton of opportunities, like Franchi Cordero, Willie Calhoun, McKinney, Bowers, you're telling me that Florial had no space ahead of those guys, considering he's the actual only legit outfielder of those guys that I mentioned? It doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying. It just doesn't make sense.
If he's auditioning for other teams, like you say, and he gets a fair shot somewhere else, that's fine. It's not like we're forcing him out of the, from the fan perspective, we're not forcing him out of the organization. We just want him to get some fair play to see what he is, and that's what he's going to get. If he goes somewhere else, so be it. Good for him. Let him get his shot in the major leagues. It's just gonna he's just gonna go down as another wasted prospect.
Oh yeah,
that's all it's gonna narrow down to. It's not like, how'd you let him go? Why'd you keep him so long? Why did you keep him in the minors for so long? That's gonna be the big topic.
28 home runs in AAA, and the Yankees couldn't find room, considering they couldn't hit to save their lives all summer. Ridiculous. Anyway, Uncle T and Rob, how good was Rodon yesterday?
I kicked off the show saying how I thought he was, after the first inning. I think he was fine. I think once he regained the trust in his fastball after getting hit first pitch home run, I think it rattled him a little bit, but I think he was able to do 27 pitches in that first inning, some high number like that, and he was still able to to put it together to go into the to get through 5. And so
9 strikeouts. That was a big number for me.
9 strikeouts. After a long inning like that, to have 9 strikeouts and go into the 5th, that to me, that's a solid outing. I'll take that from him. I have no problem with that. I think he pitched really well. I also think, in between the innings, I think him and Wells were re-strategizing as the lineups were turning over. So they really, the communication between those two, I think, was a key part of Rodon getting back on track.
Yeah, I was ready to just give up on the season for him after that first pitch homer. I'm like, shut him down. I've seen enough, because I feel like he's trying to pitch through something, and I don't want that to affect him next year. But the fact that he was able to get you through 5 and pick up 9 strikeouts is pretty big. I still think they should consider shutting him down, because him just continuing to throw and throw and throw, I don't know. Considering our injury luck this year, I don't want to see anything go wrong. So maybe this is a good time to kind of just end it on a high note, but it was a good thing to see him rebound, because that could have fell flat and been another 7-run outing for him. And you've been like, Here we go again. So, but that tells you that he is a good pitcher. That should tell you why you should trust that he can be better next year. He should be better next year if he's 100%. Because if he's 100%, he's not going to be giving up 8-9 runs a start. He's going to be giving up 3-4 max, and he's going to be a really good pitcher behind Garrett Cole. And that 1-2 punch we were supposed to have this year will be there. But he needs to be healthy. He needs to develop a third pitch, because teams are starting to pick up on that fastball slider combo, and he's given up more home runs this year than he did last year in far less innings. So that's something that needs to be addressed, and hopefully he has a long, healthy offseason to work on that, and we can get him 100% for next year. But this was probably his best start in terms of like just the stats for us this year. to get 9 strikeouts. And I think he struck out the side on the first after he gave up the home run. He walked the guy, and then he struck out 3 in a row. You're like, baseball, Susan. So there it is. But I mean, it was a good rebound after a really bad first inning.
His fastball was alive yesterday. That was
velocity was there, yeah.
Yeah, the velocity was there. That fastball was lively, had a lot of movement, and he was racking up the strikeouts. I mean, he could have racked up 12, 13 strikeouts if we had him pitch for another inning and a third. He was just at that kind of swing and miss stuff. So that was really good to see. Really good to see. Obviously, in future, we want to get his pitch count down. I want to work on getting those walks down, but that was the kind of stuff that we paid money to see. So that's a good sign. I would even consider what Rob was saying. Take that as a win and then shut him down the rest of the way. Would you guys considering Garrett Cole's very close to winning a Cy Young, but would you guys sit him for the rest of the way to protect him for next year? Rather than Cy Young?
No, not your ace. He's too seasoned. There's no reason to worry about next year right now. Not with him. You could handpick other players that you're just like, you know what, next year's next year, like Judge. You know, he's not chasing anything this year. You know, if they decided to just shut him down, yeah, you could see the logic to it because of the toe. You know, DJ, because of the toe, you could do the same thing. Cole, no. Cole, you let him write it out. You know, you don't want that. You don't want that. Say they shut him down now, and he still gets the Cy Young, but that's only because you don't want a cheap win. You know, you don't want a cheap award, and that's what to me that was what it would feel like.
Yeah, I don't think he would let them. Garrett Cole's kind of in a good way. He's an asshole, so I don't think he's going to let them do that. He wants the Cy Young, whether or not the Yankees are finishing 500. We know they're not making a playoff run, but he wants that Cy Young because he should have had one a couple of years ago, but Verlander beat him out for it, which I still don't know how that happened, but he wants this. And he wants to prove to everybody because this is his kind of FU moment to the league. Because remember, he was left out of that top 10 pitchers list. He had Alek Manoah, who's not even reporting to AAA, bad mouthing him to start the season. And Garrett Cole is like, I'm still here. You know, like you're forgetting who the fuck I am. And there's a reason he signed that contract. There's a reason why he was given that money. And he's proven that to everybody this year. The way he's pitched, he has been given they've been doing him no favors the way that they've not supported him offensively this year because he should have close to 20 wins with the way he's been pitching. And
easy.
Yeah, he's going to go for that Cy Young. But I would say this, they need to start giving Wells his days. When Cole pitches, Wells needs to be catching him because I don't know how many more starts Cole has, maybe 3, but Wells should be catching those 3 starts. But because they want that Cy Young, they might only do it for like his last start. If he has that thing in the bag, which is never actually a guarantee, like his last start, you might see Wells catch him. But that's the one thing I would want them to do. Maybe you limit his innings, the last few starts. Maybe you'd be like, all right, we're gonna cap you at 100. And we're not going over that. So even if you're only in the 5th inning, we're not letting you throw too many pitches. You can do that, but you could still pitch him. Like it's different because Cole's been healthy all year. You don't want to be like, well, let's just in the air, let's just air cautiously with him. You let him pitch, but you also kind of give him a little bit of a cap so you don't let him overthrow in an unnecessary season.
I agree with that, Rob. That's. I think that's.
What do you think about Spencer's theory of Cole being able to get some MVP votes?
Not over Ohtani. He ain't getting. Ohtani's got it I don't think anyone's beating Ohtani this year for it. Even though Ohtani's not pitching now. It was Ohtani's as soon as Aaron Judge hit the IL. Because that was his only competition.
That's true.
Judge was about to hit 62 again. And then he ran into the wall. And once that happened, Ohtani, they might as well give it to him then, because he's still in the MVP conversation despite not pitching the year. Like you
How
see,
many
every time you
homers
see,
did Aaron Judge have, and he missed about 3 months.
I think he's at 31. Is it right at 30?
31, 32.
He would have easily got 50. Easy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but in his sleep, he could have gotten 50.
He was still on pace to hit 60 again before he got hurt.
I know.
But I do want to bring up, before we close it out, a little feel-good story. Let's talk a little bit about Zach McAllister. One of our draft picks from 2006, along with Ian Kennedy and, who else was in there? Betances, Robertson. We're all in that draft class. There's somebody else that I'm forgetting. But to go full circle after his career, grinding it out, due to minor leagues, and coming back to the team that got him into the business, having the outing that he did, I felt so happy for him. You like seeing that kind of stuff. Nope.
So my mic went on mute for a second. I was like, it was taking too long. I mean, hopefully he can just be a solid arm, and maybe he gets another spot elsewhere. Maybe he's with us next year. Maybe Matt Blake turns him into a veteran arm that we can turn to. But it is a good story. That's really all we're playing for right now, right? It's just some feel good stories. Yeah, we've had like 7 different pitchers join the roster in the last 3 days. So I think they call that, what is it, Matt Bowman, Anthony Mishwitz, who was, I don't know how the hell he's still in the 40-man, but whatever. And now McAllister. So yeah, we just keep getting all these different names joining the bullpen. And hey, good for him. I completely forgot about him. When you bring up 06, you're like, that was a long time ago. And yeah, so these are the kind of stories, like Elliot just said, Spencer just said, these are the stories you want to hear. And it brings you back to why you play this sport as a kid, Spencer, because this is a kid's game, as much as you want to deny it.
Cool.
Yeah.
But
that's a good way of putting it, Spence. These are the stories that remind us there's more to baseball than just winning a title and making the playoffs. It's a story of perseverance. That's very true. And that's why baseball stands alone in that regard, with the history and the stories and the movies, because there's always these kind of feel-good stories that continue to make you want to tune in and make you love the sport. So that is nice, and I wish him well. Yeah.
But we're going to close it on that note. I want to thank everybody that was in the chat. You guys are fire. If you haven't yet, hit that like button. If you're not already, which I highly doubt you're not, hit that subscribe button. And as I always say, wear those pinstripes with pride and play hard.